Before we go any further with the show today, we want to explain we're a day late because of a variety of commitments that we both had, but also it was again maybe 36 hours ago now that Brian, you got the news that a friend of both of ours, Scott Cornish, who has been featured many times on the 605 Super podcast, and we've mentioned on the show here, and have both known for 30 years, had passed away. And it was not it was a sudden thing. It wasn't expected because he hadn't been ill for a long time. But we understand in the last week he caught COVID and complications from that. And you reminded me, I kind of thought that, but you told me for sure right before we went on the air that even though he's become one of your best friends throughout the last 30 years, you guys actually met at Fan Week at Smoky Mountain the same year that I met you.
Yeah. Smoky Mountain Wrestling Fan Week. If you ever, I'm talking to you, the person who actually put it together. Well, with respect to Brian Hildebrand, you created a lot of friendships. You put a lot of us together, the self-anointed smart fans from around the country, around the world in some cases, and created friendships. And I met you when I met Scott Cornish. And I've been friends with both of you 30 years. I met Stacy, your wife, before she was your wife.
Yes.
At Smoky Mountain Wrestling Fan Week. I met, someone who's not with us anymore, but I think of, because me and Scott were both really good friends with him, Harry White at Fan Week, John McAdam, who does a show on Arcadian Vanguard. I met him at Fan Week. I met people, Dave Lane, who's still out there. I just saw him on Twitter. Great photographer. I met him at Fan Week. There are so many of us who met there that have retained a special bond and a friendship. And like you said with Scott, one of my best friends, someone who's a major influence on me in everything I like, music and books and movies and comedy and humor. A lot of it just comes from long conversations on the phone with him. We used to do that, conversations on the phone for hours and hours and hours, and correspondence via letter, and eventually, on the computer talking back and forth. But I've had so many adventures with him in wrestling and so many in music. With him, I went to see Iggy and the Stooges. I went to see Hazel Atkins with the Demolition Doll Rods and American Death Ray. I went to see the Dictators, who I mentioned before, with the Star Spangles opening up for them. I saw Question Mark and the Mysterians at Lincoln Center.
No.
Yeah, at Lincoln Center. It was bizarre. The way he was dressed was bizarre, Mr. Question Mark himself. But that was the kind of friend Scott was. When I would go down to the East Village, I'd take the train from Long Beach. He would come down from upstate New York, and we'd go to the 2nd Avenue Deli. We'd go buy some zines, and we'd just have a good time. And, I'm doing my best to just be upbeat right now because I've been so down and I've cried my eyes out the last couple of days because it was sudden. He caught COVID. He was just out doing what he always does, going to shows. He didn't have a car. He didn't drive. And he found a way to go everywhere. For wrestling, for music, for comedy. It was incredible. And, he always was great at having stories and telling them in the funniest way. I never got to go to OVW, but he did with Greg Greenland, and I would hear all about the stories from when they would go down there.
Yeah, they would come to. Well, I said there was a picture posted on Twitter, I believe, somewhere, of him standing in front of the old Davis Arena over in Jeffersonville. And Greg used to come to a lot of the Six Flags events we do outdoors, and Scott came to some of those. And, I honestly, until you said that, did not know that he didn't drive at all. But he was everywhere. He was like teleported from place to place because you would always see him popping up. He was very devoted.
He was in Amarillo with me, him, Bob Barnett, and Harry White in a car, driving to Terry Funk's ranch. I mean, he was someone who went everywhere and did so many different things. And, the friendship he had with me, it's amazing seeing since he passed just a couple of days on his Facebook page, so many of his friends from his other worlds have been posting tributes, and it's amazing just how many people he affected. A positive energy, always hysterical, and a very giving friend. I have here, I posted some of these, Jim. You may get a kick out of some of them. In the old days, kids, we used to trade tapes. And with the tape, sometimes you would send a letter.
Imagine that.
Sometimes the letter would be bland. Here's what I sent you. Please send me this. Other times you would get some humor out of it. And Scott was good with that. Let me read you a couple of these, Jim. This is actually from the end of one. This is right after WCW Uncensored in 1996. Late breaking news. Hulk Hogan's next 5 hand-picked opponents from the Dungeon of Doom. 1, Ted Arcidi. 2, Curly Moe. 3, Uncle Elmer, dead 4 years now and still a better wrestler than Jeep Swenson. 4, Ed Leslie's latest incarnation, a shoot angle as the untalented suckass. And 5, Bill Kazmaier, what you gonna do? And then here's another one. I'll read you this one. You may get a kick out of it. He sent me VHS tape of The Young Ones, which was a British comedy I always was a big fan of. It used to be on MTV. People in England are always shocked anyone here knows it. It was on MTV, and then it was on videotape, a cult favorite. Brian, I know how much you enjoy The Young Ones, just like Jerry Lawler. So here you go.
Oh, jeez. That was stiff.
So here you go. These are 2 of the, I believe, 4 volumes released so far. I haven't seen these in years since they first aired in this country on MTV. Enjoy. Thanks for the great mixtapes. Some wild, wacky stuff. If you do another one, you might include 1, Brody Luger cage match. I really want to see this, even if the quality isn't top-notch. Just to see it, you know? 2, Missy Hyatt porn video. Same reason. 3.
Now, wait. We have to say that was later proven to be a rumor, correct? To not get sued or something.
I'm just reading what was written here. I'm not.
Oh, I thought there was at one time
there was
a rumor
that's what prompted this. All right, now I'm going to stop for a second. I had the master tape, I believe, of Brody Luger, the cage match that became famous because Brody stopped cooperating with Luger right before he went to work for Crockett. The Missy Hyatt porn video was a rumor that went around in 97, I want to say, because Missy was living in Manhattan, and around that period of time, I forget the name of the channel because I didn't live in Manhattan, but I spent a lot of time there. But the public access channel had like porno programming, Robin Bird and various things. And there was a video of 2 women nude going at it. And the rumor was it was Missy Hyatt. And I may have procured a copy of the tape. And the quality sucks, so there was I couldn't tell, to be honest with you. It could be, it couldn't be. I'm still to this day not certain, but if she says it wasn't her, I'll believe her, because I couldn't figure it out.
Well, there you go. And after intensive study, you couldn't. Right. Okay.
3, the Flair Lawler Jimmy Hart WMC challenge angle. I'm not sure whether I've ever seen this, but I've sure heard about it. And by the way, I had a copy of that I got from you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, even less.
4, Terry Funk's chainsaw interview, and 5, canvas cavity highlights. Who says I'm sick? Hey, it looks like the Sportatorium isn't closing after all. Let's go. The big Christmas night card features the returning Killer Brooks versus Frogman LeBlanc in a cage match with the Goon as special referee. If LeBlanc wins, he gets 5 minutes with Baboose. also, a big $35 battle royal, Black Bart versus Bob Sweetan's Ghost, and Sebastian is rumored to be making a surprise appearance selling programs. Talk to you soon. Scott Cornish. Check out my new website, www.lano'sadick.com.
And folks, I apologize if you've just wandered by this program in the last couple of weeks, but these names from our past are just hilarious to us.
He sent one here, too. This is the last one I'll read on the air. But it was after I sent him the Heroes of World Class documentary. He wrote, Mickey Grant invented everything. But then he sent a copy of, I'm guessing this, if it's not ICW, it must be ICW. I was going to say it would be the precursor in Knoxville. It's a card that has a challenge match, and he wrote the best stip ever. Ronnie Garvin puts up $5,000 versus Don Diamond, who puts up a Barry Manilow album if he shows up. Best stipulation ever. $5,000 versus a Barry Manilow album.
Because Don Diamond, if he had long, fluffy, flowing blonde hair instead of that kind of curly,
perm,
nondescript head of hair that he had, you would have thought that he was Barry Manilow, except if he would have sang, then you wouldn't have thought that.
Oh, I didn't even put two and two together about that. The resemblance. Now that you say it, I totally see it.
Yes, you look dead like him. If you put a Barry Manilow wig on Don Diamond, you'd have Barry Manilow. But nobody knows now what the fuck Don Diamond looks like, so it wouldn't be funny.
Yeah, his career never really took off past a certain point.
Oh, it took off all right. It took about 35 years off. But
but this is the kind of stuff he would send me. And again, just a wonderful friendship over 30 years. And I'm very, very happy. I guess one of the things I'm grateful for is that since I started having him come on the 605 Super Podcast in 2016, he developed a following. He developed people who enjoyed him and his humor the way I did. And he made a lot of friends through the show. And that's one of the things I'm always proudest of with 605 and with the Cult of Cornette. The amount of people who had never met each other, very similar to what you did with Fan Week. People who had never met each other, who somehow, and in this case online, developed friendships through the programs, through the shows, through the community. And that's one of the things I'm really proud of. Yeah, the shows are really successful, but there's people who have best friends right now because of the show. And like I said, everyone's feeling it. Everyone who knew him, the amount of people who only heard him and know how much he meant to everyone who have reached out has been tremendous. And lovely guy, one of the best friends I've ever had. And I'm going to miss him tremendously. And his input into things was something I always wanted because he had the most interesting takes and views on things. And it always made me laugh. But tremendous guy. And everyone, anyone who ever heard him, please think of something he said that made you laugh.
And again, he was, I think, did you say 63?
64, I believe, but I got to double check.
64, and he might appreciate this because you said that before we started recording. You said, "Well, yeah, I met you," meaning me, at the exact same time that I met Scott. And me and Scott are both, I'm going to be 63 this year. We're both about the same age. I said, I hope you're not like a fucking nursing home cat.
What does that mean?
I still don't know what that means. No, the legend of and there's been more than one, but you hear the stories of the cat at the nursing home that goes and curls up next to the old folks to go. And they can predict these things, and they're comforting them in their last moments or whatever. I hope you're not a nursing home cat.
I hope so, too. That sounds awful. It's funny. I just thought of something. I knew who he was before I went to Fan Week because I had seen some of the videos coming out of 93 Fan Week, the first one. And there was a series of mock promos leading to a press conference to build up J.R. Benson versus Dr. Tom Pritchard.
Yes. In
an electrified, no-rope, barbed wire, over a bed of infected hypodermic needles match, with the loser having to spend 48 hours with Dr. Mike Leno.
Yes, I remember that. I remember that shoot.
Harry White did a promo, and Dave Meltzer actually walks on, hands him a piece of paper, and walks out, and he goes, "This just in, the Observer lifting 5 stars, 7.5 stars for this match," which all things considered is funny, but they're doing this mock press conference, and it's J.R. Benson with Kevin Lawler, and it's Tom Pritchard or Chris Candido, and they start taking questions from the audience, which are all the other fans, the smart fans, whatever there were, 30 people. And Scott just out of nowhere, and I always remembered it, he raised his hand, everyone's like making noise, and everyone gets quiet. He goes, Dr. Pritchard. And everyone doesn't know what he's going to say. This wasn't planned. He goes, and this is the summer of 93, Luger Yokozuna. Dr. Pritchard, what about the commission ruling you're going to have to wear a protective pad over the steel plate in your head? and you can tell Tom Pritchard had no idea how to answer that. The room broke up. It was such a brilliant, smart, funny, quick thing. And, Yeah, I'm really going to miss him. Greatest guy, just the greatest guy. Big influence on me and who I am.
So, Scott, we've got you to blame for much of this.
Got you to blame too, so.
Well, hey, I wasn't even there. No, but
he was with me in Louisville in '95 for the famous riot, the last great night of kayfabe in Louisville, when the fans decided they wanted to beat us up because they couldn't beat up the wrestlers.
See, he could get more heat than anybody. We got out of there in time, but nevertheless, yes, we will miss Scott, and that's again something sudden and shocking. So, but yes, as we said, we're going to miss Scott and his contributions to and you know the community, and it's not like something again that we were prepared for because it was so sudden. So it's kind of a shock with that. But can I give you some positive news that we've done something good as a community for some people?
Positive news? You getting out of showbiz?
Oh, come on now, Henny Youngman. What the fuck here?